Alright guys, so this is another re-review I decided to do, because, well, why not? And this is my re-review of Man Noir, written by Scott Snyder. Which, now that I think about it, I think this is the only thing Scott Snyder wrote for Marvel. I think he wrote some minor, like, mini-stories here and there, but this was, like, the only full comic as far as I know. I could be wrong. But I think this is the only comic Scott Snyder wrote before, well, full comic he wrote before going on to DC. Again, I could be totally wrong here. But yeah, as you can tell, Man Noir is obviously part of the Noir title, like Spider-Man Noir and such. So, this comic is a lot of fun. Dear Lord, did Scott Snyder just, I don't know, did he just, like, marathon all of Indiana Jones and said, I can do that, but with Iron Man? Yeah. So in this continuity, Tony Stark is a rich billionaire playboy, but he's also an adventurer. In fact, he has an entire magazine lineup called Marvels that follow his exploitations. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. Now, you gotta understand that in this four-part comic, there's more Tony Stark adventure stuff than it is Iron Man. In fact, I don't think Iron Man shows up until the third issue, really. So the first two issues, you're just kind of watching Tony Stark, but at the same time, it's a lot of fun. And there's cameos of a bunch of other, noir-type style characters in here, which I thought was really cool. And I'll get to those in a minute, but yeah. So the story is that Tony has discovered an ancient mask, but turns out the girl he's with is, it's noir version of of Whitney Frost, aka Madame Mask. Plus, the villains in here are not Iron Man. Well, aside from Madame Mask, the other villains in here are a noir version of Baron Zemo and Baron Strucker. Now, the thing about Zemo is that this is not Heinrich or Helmut Zemo. They're not in here. This Zemo is a lot different. And I don't want to spoil, even though the comic's been out for, I'd say about almost 6 years now. Well, pretty much 6 years now. I really do not want to spoil Zemo's real identity for those who have not read the comic. I really don't want to spoil who the real Zemo is in here. Anyway, so in this story, Stark is trying to find a super weapon and Atlantis, and he gets help from Namor, who in this continuity is a pirate. Could you ask for anything more badass? Plus, we get mentions of noir version of Thor. I like how that story played out. We get also several other mentions of characters here and there. But again, this is solely a Iron Man story. But again, it's an Indiana Jones story. Had it been like I said, it's an Indiana Jones story where basically if Indiana Jones got a giant suit. And oh yeah, does the suit look really good? It also looks kind of hokey too, but at the same time it's awesome. We also get War Machine in here too, I forgot to mention. Yeah, we get War Machine in here, and yeah, people die. Like, there is one big picture, like a one-page spread of Iron Man and War Machine just completely murdering Nazis, and you see the blood everywhere. Yeah, people die horribly in this comic. Like, there's even, in the first issue, a guy just gets popped right in front of you. You see the blood and brain matter go everywhere. So this comic is not for a young audience, I would say. This comic is not for a for younger audience. A lot of the dialogue in here is really hokey, but at the same time you have to understand, yeah, it's a noir comic, and again, it's pulling from a lot of pulp stories. It's pulling from a lot of pulp stories like, The Phantom and The Shadow, and I feel like that's what, more so than even, Spider-Man Noir. Well, Spider-Man Noir really pulled from, The Shadow and all of them. But I feel like a lot of them were trying to be crime stories. Iron Man Noir was really vastly different than the other noir titles, which were really trying to be these comics where they're trying to be like crime noir and pulp stories. In here, I feel like Scott Snyder said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna do this story where they go to Atlantis," and that's exactly what it is. This is so vastly different because the other ones are trying to be dark and very very mysterious. And here, this is very bright and colorful, despite all the blood, mind you. But this is a very bright and colorful comic. This is a very, adventure-type story. This really embraces a lot of, like, Doc Savage and the spirit, and a lot of like adventure pulp stories. This really does embody and really take a lot of notes from those kind of comics. And like I've been saying, it's Indiana Jones, but with Tony Stark in a giant robot in a giant suit. There's some great action in here. The problem is that this is only 4 issues long, and it really feels short. Like I said, Tony and Rhodey don't get into the Iron Man suit, the Iron Man and War Machine suits, until I'd say about halfway through the 3rd issue. This is more of a Tony Stark story, really. So I kind of wish it got at least one or two more issues, because when everything happens, and there's some great the great dialogue and the stories behind it and how all the characters are done in here, it does remind you, oh yeah, this is still a fun comic. My only gripe is that it's really just too short. I kind of wish it got at least one more issue, 1 or 2, 6 at most. I think all the other Noir titles got 6 issues, right? Didn't they all get 6 issues? Why did this one only get 4? Again, the Noir titles have been kind of, out of it, so I can't say. So I can't say for sure, but yeah, this was a lot of fun. If you really dig the Noir, if you really dug the Marvel Noir titles, if you really dug, Spider-Man Noir and all these other Noir titles, then I would highly recommend Iron Man Noir. If you're even an Iron Man fan, I would say, yeah, check this out. And even if you're not a really big Iron Man fan, I would say check this out, because you really don't need a lot of it's an alternate universe, so you really don't need a lot of, background knowledge for this character. Even if you're not the biggest Iron Man fan, you can still be like, oh yeah, I know all these other characters, and as long as you have a passing knowledge of who Tony Stark is, then I would say go for it. But yeah, I highly recommend. This has probably been my favorite of. I will dare I say that this is probably my favorite of the Noir titles. My only gripe is that it's too damn short. It's just too damn short. I wish it was longer. Anyway, so you guys tell me if you've read the comic. What did you think of Iron Man Noir? Did you guys like it? Did you guys hate it? And once again, hope you all enjoyed this review, and I will see you guys later.